The 40 in my gas tank didn't last too long. My problem, if you call it a problem, is that I don't have a hustle. I'm terrified of pulling crimes because I get caught for the dumb things I don't plan, so I figured that I will definitely get caught for the things that I do plan. I needed gas though, so I turned to an old but tried and true scam that has worked every time for me, one that I had never been caught doing. I pulled up to a Wal-Mart, walked into the store, went and grabbed an expensive non-technology based item, kept it out in the open so as not to look suspicious, walked through the checkouts directly to the customer service desk, and then promptly returned said item for a gift card. The item in question was a $140 tent. Walmart caught on to this long ago, but doesn't know how to stop it from happening. Instead, they put limits on how often you can return things without receipts, 3 in a 6-month period, and even more recently started limiting the return amount to about $50 max, depending on the situation. Also, if you get a gift card and the Walmart has a Murphy USA gas station nearby, you can use the gift card to buy gas. This was what I was looking for, but unfortunately, there was no Walmarts nearby with gas stations, so I did the tent thing and tried something new. After receiving the gift card, I went back to the checkout, bought a prepaid MasterCard, tried to load $100 onto it, and look, it worked. I didn't need the Murphy USA anymore. I could use any place that took MasterCard, and that was everywhere. I went across the street and tried to use it, but it didn't work. I called the prepaid company, and they said it could take up to 6 hours. It was time to wait patiently. After about 4 hours, my money showed up. I gassed up, went back and bought cigarettes and some food at Walmart, jumped back on the freeway, and continued my journey. I was stoked because I knew that I could do this a couple more times and get plenty of money for the trip. I hadn't done it in years. As I got into North Carolina later that next day, I needed money again. I was on my way to do the same thing again, but while on the freeway, there was a red Mustang, brand new, that wanted to race me or something ignorant like that. I wasn't looking for all that. I just wanted to get off the freeway. I was driving behind him and he brake checked me. I was too close and had to swerve. When I did this, the tires locked on me and I spun out right in the middle of the freeway and the middle of the day, going at least 60 miles an hour. I somehow landed in the ditch backwards, but without any damage to myself or other vehicles or my vehicle, minus a bent muffler that dug into the hill rising out of the ditch in front of a field or swamp or something where I landed. It was amazing. The red Mustang kept on going. I got off the freeway, pulled into a gas station to assess the damage, tie the muffler up, put some more gas in, and get some food before taking off, back on my mission. I was headed east and was only about 50 miles from the southbound interchange that would take me past Charlotte into South Carolina. When I got to Charlotte, I went to a hospital and told them that I had gotten into an accident and that I needed to be seen. I wanted to get high and I knew that they would give me some pain pills, which they did, only taking about 2 hours to do such. I got a script of about 12 5-milligram Vicodin. I then went to Walmart, did the tent thing again, and got away with it. This time, no, they hesitated. They told me that I had just done this the day before in Nashville. I said I did, that I had 2 tents from my family outing, and that I didn't think to return both yesterday. They finally gave me the card. After that, I took all 12 pills and regretted that almost immediately. I wanted to sleep, so I parked at the Walmart I was at and tried to sleep, but the pills kicked in and they were very fresh, meaning that they were extremely potent. I could not sleep for anything and itched for about 6 hours. I finally drifted off. The next day it was time to get into South Carolina finally. I drove across the border and wanted to find some crack. I had been to this state before, and the last time I was here, if you pulled into certain places, guys would swarm your car with giant chunks of dope. That was what I was looking for in South Carolina. I started driving around Rock Hill trying to find some dope, looking everywhere for a dealer. I didn't find one anywhere. I was getting really salty when all of a sudden my tire blew out. It's about 11 p.m. and this happened on a road that had all of its stores closed or were closing for the night. I pulled into a Chinese-ran gas station, told him I was going to be working on my car in his parking lot for a bit because I had a blowout, got a mean look from him, and then I walked out. I had no idea how I was going to find a tire. I did the only thing I could think of at that time. Walked door to door trying to find someone that might know someone that might have a tire. I walked for about 45 minutes through a subdivision knocking on doors, when finally I seen in the distance a vehicle just like mine. I ran to the door, knocked until a younger black woman answered, and asked if she had a spare, telling her that I had the same car, model year 2002. She said the car was her mom's and that she would ask. A few minutes later, the owner came out and said she would help me if she could. We checked that she had a spare and spent the next few minutes trying to figure out how to lower it from underneath the rear of the car. I finally got it figured out, unattached it, told her thank you and that I would bring it back as soon as possible. I rolled the tire down the street to my car, pulled the old tire off, put the new tire on, and said thank God when it fit, albeit a little larger than my old blown-out tire. I hit the road again trying to find crack. It was a terrible night, and I still could not find any dope. I eventually went to another Wal-Mart to sleep for the night and called it quits. The next morning, I drove back into Rock Hill to a different Wal-Mart, wanting to get my final return out of the way. This time, though, I grabbed a $250 tent off the shelf. When I went to return it, things were very weird. At first, the clerk told me no, that it was too much to return without a receipt. I kept insisting, and finally a manager came up and started talking to me. He told me to wait while he found out if he could do it for me or not. I said, okay, thank you, and waited patiently. I happened to catch him out of the corner of my eye talking to a guy in plain clothes, not a Walmart employee that I could tell, and he pointed in my direction. I didn't think anything about it. When the manager finally walked back to talk to me, he told the clerk to go ahead and let me have the gift card. She said okay, completed the transaction, gave me the card, and I started to leave the store. All of a sudden, the plainclothes man walked up to me from one direction, the manager from another direction, and tells me that I need to come with them, telling me to give them the card back. The manager said that he thought this was an odd situation, so he went and checked to see if I walked in with the tent or not. When he seen I didn't, they set me up for a fraud charge. Right then and there, I bolted for the door. They grabbed me, tried to take my feet out from underneath me, to carry me to the loss prevention office, but I wasn't having it. The guy in plain clothes had me around my neck, and even as big as I am, I could not break his hold. The manager wasn't doing anything with my feet. I wouldn't let him. Finally, the plain clothes guy told him to stop trying to take my feet out from under me, and he did. Plainclothes said to me simply, stop. I'm not letting go. So I stopped. He said, calm down. You know you're busted. I said, I know. He then said, can I let up on the grip and put handcuffs on you? I said, yeah, and let him. Then they began asking me where the card was, and I started running them around saying I didn't have it and I didn't know where it was. I told them that the lady never handed it to me. He went and asked her, and she said that she did hand it to me. Then I said I threw it under a machine. They looked under the machine around us to no avail. The whole time the card was in my back pocket. They finally patted me down and found it. It was time to walk to the office. As we got near the door, which stupidly resides about 2 feet from the main entrance outer door, in the area between the outer set and inner set of doors, you know, the area where you grab a cart or a Redbox movie, I pushed plainclothes into the sliding doors and bolted. Somehow, and I mean I have no idea how, this man managed to hang on to my arms and pull me back inside. It was an amazing feat of strength, considering that I had just slammed him full body into the glass as hard as I could, hard enough that I should have either broken or dislocated his shoulder. I was absolutely amazed that this didn't happen. When they got me into the office, he said, that's it, you're trapped, you can't go anywhere else. Nice try, though. I was bitter, but after about 2 minutes, I started cooperating with him. Turned out he wasn't mad at me, and we started talking. He told me that that was a nice shot I tried to take at the end, and that I hurt him pretty badly. I apologized for that, telling him that it was just a last-ditch attempt to get away, and that I hoped he understood. He did. At that time, a cop came flying and taser out, red dot on my chest, barking at me to stop resisting. I told him I was done resisting, and so did Plainclothes. Plainclothes and I were even laughing a little bit about the event as the cop came in. The cop put his taser away and asked what they wanted done. Because I had eventually cooperated with them and not fought back, i.e. swung my fist or kicked them with my feet, Plainclothes said he was not going to file a battery charge against me. I thanked him for this greatly. The only charge that I was given was something like taking property under false pretenses, a small misdemeanor. The other thing they did hurt me much more than this, though. From this point on, if I was caught on any Wal-Mart property, I would be arrested right then and there for trespassing. That sucked bad. Finally, after a few minutes, the cop took me out, put me in the car, and drove me to jail. Here is the thing. For their battery against Lucy months before, I was placed on 6 months of probation. I figured as soon as I got to the jail, they would see that I was on probation and call my state to let them know they had me, thus ending my little soiree of freedom, requiring me to get back to my state and go to jail there as well. What actually ended up happening was no less than amazing. Come to find out, misdemeanors aren't stored in countrywide databases, and unless I had told them that I was on probation somewhere else, they would never find out about the incident. Thankfully, I never told them. I sat in a cell for 2 days eating Stouffer's frozen dinners, because that is what they served while I was waiting for court, until finally I got to see the judge. When I got into court, I could take my case to trial, wait for a plea, or admit guilt right then and there. I just wanted to get this out of the way, so I admitted guilt and waited for my sentencing. The judge, a nice elderly woman, accepted my guilty plea, then passed on sentencing right then and there. I was to do 11 days on the chain gang and then be released. That was all. I said thank you, and off I went. The chain gang consisted of a recycling center with a conveyor belt that a bunch of us stood at, pulling plastic, cans, and any other recyclables, throwing them down long tubes into dumpsters for 12 hours a day. It wasn't hard work at all, and while I was in there, I met some pretty nice people, specifically one. As I was leaving, I had no ride. I didn't know if my car was towed when I went to jail almost 2 weeks prior. I left it in the Wal-Mart and really needed to get back there and check. Fortunately, before I went into Wal-Mart, I had put the keys under my front seat and didn't lock the doors. Everything I owned was in there. One of the guys from the chain gang said that he would take me there to check. His girlfriend pulled up and off we went. I was so nervous when we pulled up. At first I didn't see my car, and then boom, there it was. I ran up to it, started it up, and my buddy told me to follow him back to his house. When we got there, he rolled a blunt, introduced me to his mom, and they both said to me that if I needed a place to stay for the time being, I was more than welcome. Southern hospitality at its finest. Though I didn't want to stay in the house and intrude, I asked if I could just park in the yard each night and fall asleep, maybe use the shower here and there while I looked for a job. At this point, I stopped trying to head to Charleston. This seemed like a nice enough area, so I decided to stay. I should have kept going like I planned. I still wanted to find crack. Now that I had a stable spot to relax, I tried something new. I had been bisexual for some time, and all that I had learned from the prostitute had made me want to do what she was doing, but at the time I was her driver, I was still tightly in the closet and didn't want anyone that I knew, however closely, knowing that I was bi. So instead of working with her and making more money, I just drove her, waiting for the opportunity to try doing what she did at another time. Now was that time. I went to a college in town because they usually have computers that the public can use. After getting logged in, I went on Craigslist and posted an advertisement that gave massages and to call me. Within an hour, I had my first call and it was time to go make some money. When I got to the client's hotel, I was nervous, but when I went inside, the nervousness started to fade away. He wanted a massage first, then a hand job. I told him I needed $160 and he agreed. Just like that, I was a prostitute. I would do a job, then go buy crack. I had finally found a dealer right across the street from my buddy's house. Well, not a real dealer. He only dealt crack because I wanted to buy it. I told him that if he kept a supply of it, I would buy it. Sometimes I would rent a motel room, other times I would smoke in my car sneakily while parked in my buddy's yard. I only smoked crack to bust a nut. Crack made me horny, and I found out 2 years before that the best time to take a hit of crack was just before I came, exhaling as I came, which literally gave me the best orgasm that I had ever had. All I did while smoking crack was masturbate. On one call, a client asked me if I had ever messed around with leather. I told him no, but I was not afraid to try whatever it was that he wanted to try. I needed the money to get high, and so I told him I was on my way. When I got there, he showed the straps that he wanted to use on me, but he had not explained how he wanted to use them. Instead, he just told me that he wanted to use them. At this point, we went into his bedroom, and he had me get naked. I did, and he told me to lie down on the bed. He started tying these leather straps around my penis. They were uncomfortable to begin with, but then things started to change. He started tightening them around my testicles, then putting my strained testicles into his mouth. It was very uncomfortable, but it didn't hurt terribly at this point, but then he amped up the pain 1,000%. He tightened these straps down as hard as he could and started sucking on my testicles relentlessly. I was trying to go with the flow, but I promise you, you have never felt sustained pain in your testicles like I felt this day. And if you have and enjoy it, I have no idea how. This was legitimate torture. After about 20 minutes of this, yes, 20 minutes of torture, I gave up and told him that I couldn't take it anymore. I told him that it hurt so badly. He relented and reluctantly took the horrible leather torture strap from around my penis and scrotum, and I could finally breathe. He told me that he was going to pay me the full amount even though I didn't give him the full hour that he paid for, and I got dressed. He went over to his carpet, pulled the corner up, grabbed the 200 that was